Scrubby people, Tracy Reed here, back with day 5 of my stress-free December daily prep series. Today I'm working with the Echo Park Santa Claus Lane collection that I designed, so I had to work with it. And today I'm going to be doing some fun things with paper folding, or at least this first one. I had the idea to make a present insert for one of the days of December daily to like hide journaling or have a layout stick in. So you're going to watch me figure this one out. We're going to figure this one out together. I accidentally scored in the wrong place because I want the papers to meet in the back of the page, and that was just in half the way that that was going, so that wasn't working out so well. So now I'm fixing it. It's okay. I'll have some extra score marks, but we'll survive. So I scored at, this is a 12, I think it's a 12 by 12 piece, or not 12 by 12, but 8.5 by 12 piece of paper, and I scored it in thirds so that it would overlap in the back, and I'm just going to adhere it, and I'm going to fold up the bottom so that it closes at the bottom and it becomes a present. So I need to fold this up and trim some of this excess off. So I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to snip off these outside bits so that there isn't all that excess paper down at the bottom, making the album super thick. So I'm just going to cut these right off and only have that centerpiece. And I should have done it on the outside. I wasn't really thinking straight because I was still just trying to figure this out. If I had done it on the outside, then it wouldn't have impeded the insert that I'm going to put on the inside. But I just compensated for that little bottom piece by trimming off a little bit of my insert. It doesn't have to be completely 8.5 inches tall. Okay, so now I have the top of the quote-unquote present, and I want it to wrap around behind this present insert to sort of create like a little lid for the top, and the back piece is going to attach to the insert. So I'm going to cut off these extra little pieces here because my insert is going to be only that wide, and I wanted there to be a little bit of overhang on the outside of the present like it was a box top. I'm going to trim it down just a little bit more, but first I'm going to create the insert, and I'm just going to use a piece of patterned paper. That way I can put a photo in there if I want, or I can create a full layout. I can hide journaling. So the green is just like the background placeholder to make the page itself, and we'll decide what's going to go in there later. That's like the name of the game with all of these videos that I'm making, right? I'm just creating things to create, and I'll figure out how I want to use them later or how they're going to fit into my album later on down the line. But we're creating no stress December daily foundation pages that don't require special tools, that kind of a thing for this series. All right, so I've got that wrapped around there. I'm adding just a little bit of adhesive at the top there so that it stays stuck down. Then put this in here. Cute. Last thing I'm going to do, second to last thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to create a little hanging tag that says do not open until Christmas. I'm just going to punch a hole in the top part of it. I was a little bit off center when I punched my hole, but you can't really tell once I add the string. No big deal. I'm still not used to this We Are Memory Keepers, or whatever that is, crocodile thing. So I still get off center. But once you tie the string to it, you can't really tell, so it's not a big deal. I'm just a little bit worried about how fragile it is with just that little tiny piece of paper, but we'll survive. So this is just going to dangle on the outside. I'm going to trim this down a little bit. Cute. All right, last thing I'm going to do is add a paper strip so that it looks like a present. And this one is all done. I'm going to add a sticky strip to the outside for the holes instead of punching holes in this itself. That way it doesn't impede the pocket at all. Perfect. Make sure that's nice and stuck down there. If I'd planned ahead a little bit, I would have known that the scallop on the outside of that tag was going to be red, but I didn't, so we have a lot of that red houndstooth buffalo plaid going on. All right, next, I had an idea for a 2-page spread, which I haven't done any 2-page spreads yet, but I had an idea for this one where I was going to create a bunch of tags, horizontal tags. And this can either be like day 6, because there's 6 places on it, or it could be a placeholder. There's 5 of us, so it could be placeholder for 5 photos, 1 of each of us, and a title or journaling. I'm not sure yet. I just had an idea about what I wanted it to look like. So I'm going to cut all of these papers down to match this tag. And then I'm going to stagger them on this page so that they're not just like perfect clones of each other. So I'm going to stick them all down, some on the edge, inside edge, some on the outside edge, so that they're going opposite directions. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side. All right, so these are all settled. If I had thought I would have added the holes to the tags before I stuck them down, but I did not. So now I get to add the holes to all of the tags while they are already stuck down like a goober. Then I'm going to tie string to each one too, because we all love a little texture. Perfect. So I'm just going to paperclip a few things to the page to maybe hold a place like I've been doing this whole time. Not really planning too far ahead for what I'm going to do with this page, so I'm not adding too much to it. I just like it the way it looks just as it is. I'm going to retie that first. All right, next we're going to move on to an acetate page. I'm going to make some hanging ornaments using some of the scraps that I've already accumulated. I'm cutting 2 circles out of each of these pieces of paper, and I'm folding them up. I should have only folded 1. I wasn't really thinking too clearly, but only fold 1 for each of the ornaments because the bottom one does not need to fold up. Then I'm adhering them pattern side to pattern side, so the patterns that I'm adhering match so that it just kind of creates a little bit of depth. And then I'm going to stick it straight down. So this glue that I'm using dries clear. You'll kind of be able to see a little bit like of the clear glue, but not really. And also I can put something on the back of this like photos or other ephemera when I go to use it. So I'm not too concerned about that. I'm going to add some string and a bow to each of these rather than a ornament topper. So I'm just using my Nuvo glue to put all that down as well because this Nuvo glue holds really well. If it starts coming loose when I start scrapbooking with this page, then I'll just use a stapler, a mini, like the Tim Holtz mini stapler to staple down everything if it starts to become loose. But it should hold pretty well. All right, so I'm just going to fast forward. I do that for everything, so they all have little bows. And I really don't want to add too much to this. It's almost going to be like a divider page, just something decorative. So I'm going to add some gems, like little pearls to this around the outside edges. And what I decided I wanted to do was add some sort of title in that blank space down at the bottom left, but I didn't want to add it to the acetate itself because then you would be able to see it on the other side. So after I adhere beads on both sides of these, because I do intend to use the back side of this page too, I'm going to pull out some cardstock and I'm going to create like a little mini page for the background that this is going to lay over, and I'm going to add my title to that instead. So I'm going to stick this down and I'm going to add, I'm going to go through the chipboard, I believe, to add my title. The chipboard and the stickers. I don't love using stickers for foundation pages because you can't really move them afterwards, but this one has some great stickers and chipboard that I can use for this page, so I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to do this Just Believe, and then I'm going to add in a couple of these trees too. I don't want to overdo it, especially since I don't know what this page is going to be for yet. But I'm just going to make sure that it fits in this space as well. Making sure everything lines up. Hello, cat. Perfect. So I'm going to stick this down, and then I'm going to move on to the next page. After I make sure that everything is aligned correctly, I need to move that Just Believe in a little bit. Perfect. I love how those pages interact. I'm just showing you in the album how they interact. Very cute. Okay, so next I wanted to create a smaller size page. I've been doing a lot of full size pages in the foundation pages that I've been making recently, so I'm going to make, this one is I think 4 by 4.5 by 8.5. It's basically traveler's notebook size, and I'm going to add a pocket to it. Just using my liquid glue around the outside edges to do that. And then I'm going to add a tag on the inside. My suggestion is to use cardstock that's nice and firm. I did not use firm cardstock for this, and so it's a little floppy. I'm going to have to back it again with like another piece of cardstock just so that it goes in and out of that pocket well. And then I'm going to use some of the stamps from my collection and create some stamping on this tag, pulling out some Catherine Pooler ink in the Christmas colors from last year, Cranberry Fizz and Deck the Halls. And I'm going to add a few presents, and then I realized once I add 3 presents that I ran out of room. There's no way that a 4th present is going to fit, but there's all that blank space right there. So I decided to get out the snowflake on that card and add in some snowflakes too. So it says very, very merry. And I'm going to start filling in the space with the snowflakes. And it looks like I did it on purpose in the end, which is always good. So I'm going to add one here and then another one in green, and then some at the top as well so that it looks framed in. I always like to make sure that everything looks like it's well framed. Perfect. Okay, so that is the tag that goes inside. And I'm not even gonna lie, I struggled with this page a little. It's like the biggest struggle I had with all of this particular set of foundation pages. I think it was specifically these stickers that I was struggling with. I just could not make, I stuck that happiest season of all card down in a really awkward place, and I could not make it look right for the longest time. So I'm gonna add in this Merry Christmas chipboard, and I'm gonna back it with some more green paper. And it's going to fill up a little bit more space vertically on that tag, which kind of made me happier. I'm still not super jazzed about it. I might end up changing it if I end up using this page later, but for now it works. So I'm going to notch this banner to match the chipboard piece, and then I'm going to stick it underneath the journal card, and I'm just going to call it good. Move on to my, I'm going to make 4 4x6 cards rather than 3x4, or 4x4 cards rather than 3x4 cards for the scrap cards that I'm going to make this time around. I am cutting out this 4x4 because I wanted to use it in this process, so I'm going to mat it on this green piece of pattern paper, and I'm going to do it offset so it's kind of at a diagonal. Great. Now we can actually put this aside for a minute and make something else, and then I come back to these cards. So I had to let it marinate for a minute, which sometimes happens. I'm gonna add that chipboard joy there, and I'm gonna work through these cards and then come back and work through them again. Sometimes I make them like all in one card at a time. Sometimes I make them in stages as a group. This time I made them in stages as a group. So I'm using a lot of the ephemera and frames and tags from the collection for these pages, or for these cards. I like the double matting on this one. Happy holidays. And then I want to add a bunch of banners to this page, or this card, and they're in all different sizes. These are obviously just paper strips that I have left over because the point is to use up the scraps before I move on. So I'm going to add these onto the card, and then I'm going to use a brad to hang a tag from the top corner so that it has a little bit of movement and it wiggles around, just a little bit more interactivity. I realized I put my tape on the wrong side, so I had to scrape it off before it got too stuck. All right, so now I'm just going to make a hole for my brad with an awl. Make it nice and big. No, I did not stab my fingers with this awl. That is not why I have band-aids. I actually saved my dog from a really bad accident, and my fingers got a little bit mangled in the process, so you get to see band-aids. I apologize. All right, so now I'm gonna go back through these and add a couple of things like that ribbon and Santa Claus, and then I think a little gem brad, and then I'm gonna call it good. Yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. I will be back for 2 more days of December daily prep, no stress December daily prep. And I'll see you next time. All right, thank you.